All right, so it's day 8. 8 days in a row we're making daily videos. This is kind of a little overwhelming, but man, I'm looking for that halfway mark. So today we're going to talk a little bit about pistol powder for reloading, especially 9mm. I'm trying to load 9mm, and I'm kind of stuck with my 135 grain blue bullets for now. I might go to 147, but that's a different video. So with powders, you always want to go with what's recommended. And with blue bullets and the polymer coated bullets, the lead data is pretty consistent. So if you go with what the lead bullet data for the powder companies recommend the loads, not the bullets. So it's difficult to find information for 135 grains, but it's out there. You can find it. So that started my journey. Is I just wanted to see what I liked about certain powders and what I didn't like about certain powders, so I could be more knowledgeable. Because boy, you go to a big reloading place, it is a little overwhelming with all the selections and so many different powders. And it turns out, most of the companies are the same. They just put different names and stuff on it. So powder selection is it's pretty overwhelming, a little difficult, and it's just my thoughts. So just be safe out there, and I'm not going to get into actual load data, but more of preferences and what I look for in powder. So basically, it comes down to availability and cost. That's the big thing. So if you're lucky and you go into a store that has a lot of powder, it can be a little bit overwhelming about the selection and what you like and which ones to pick. And what the best way to do that is with a burn chart. So a burn chart, there's a bunch of them on the internet, but a burn chart, it has the rate that the powders burn. So it gives you kind of a selection, so you know what ballpark to be in, right? So a rule of thumb is, especially for 9mm, is a heavier bullet and a faster burning powder is what I've always heard. And when I first started reloading, I went over to my buddy's house, and he reloaded with Tight Group, which was number 15 right here. It's Hodgdon's Tight Group. It's a great powder, and it works good. It's fast burning. It's toward the front here, and it's available, and it's not very expensive. You can get it at a good price point. My problem with it was I did notice some smoke out in front of the barrel with Tight Group. So when I first started hand loading, I wanted something that filled the case a little bit more, and I was looking for just a little bit less smoke. It's just didn't get the gun dirty, but I could see smoke out the front of the barrel a little bit more than other powders. So that's what I was just curious about. So another friend of mine recommended Winchester 231, which is down here. And it is number 29 on the chart. So my thinking was that would fill the case up a little bit more if I went down the burn chart, and maybe I would have a little bit more flexibility with the charge. But there wasn't any Winchester 231 available. And Hodgdon makes a variant, this HP 38. This is what I got right here. This is what I loaded at first, and this is what I went with. And it's a good powder. It's just a little flaky. It's real small flakes, and it's actually heavier, so it does not fill the case as much as you would think as something up here. So it didn't fill the case as much, so I went again a little bit farther. Everybody that I shoot with recommends this Vitavori, but N320, which was up here by Tight Group. And I was concerned that it was going to smoke like the Tight Group did. So I went again a little bit farther down the burn chart. I went all the way down to 38. So I started at 15, went all the way down to 38, just trying different brands. And I found that the Vitavori powder is a little bit harder to find, and it's twice as expensive. So I kind of, you're like, twice as expensive? Oh my gosh. In my area, we're talking $40 and $20 for these. So, but if you break it down, it's, this is less than a penny a round in 9mm. So we're talking maybe 2 pennies for this around. So it might get close to 2 pennies around for this one because it's so far down the burn chart. But then again, that's up to your personal preference and stuff. But I'll tell you right now, I didn't see twice as good performance. Yes, it meters well, and it does meter better, and it's a lot more consistent metering, but the performance was just the same as the other two powders. It wasn't, you didn't see the difference in the powder, in the performance. And then again, this powder, this IMR Target, I won this at a match as like a door prize. And it really wasn't on my radar, but I did have it. And it's up close to Tight Group. It's right next to Tight Group. So I went back to this powder, and I really like it. So I've been really surprised. They all have their pros and cons, but it's just it's funny how I start up here at 15, I work my way all the way down, and then I go back all the way up to 15. So, that fast burning powder, heavy bullet thing, is pretty true. Okay, so the Vihtavuori powder is really easy to work with. It meters real consistently. It was real easy to set up. I feel like I could, dial it in pretty quick. But for the 135 grain blue bullets and what I was trying to do with the 130 power factor I was trying to reach, it was kind of difficult to get in that range. In my Glock 34, I could get it to 135 power factor or 125 factor. I couldn't get that middle ground. There was a big ground, and it wasn't very consistent. And I would get close. I got to, 132 power factor or so, but every once in a while, the speed would just drop off, and I would have a few rounds that did not make power factor when I was chronoing, and it was frustrating. So, I'm sure this powder works great for other weight bullets. I could see it really working well with 115, 124 grain bullets, or especially bigger powder charges. But when I was trying to load for the IDPA, this really didn't work out. More than willing, I'll probably get some N320 like I should have in the first place and try that out someday. But, with the availability and the high expense, I'm not in a big rush to do that. What N320 looks like, the Vihtavuori powder. And little pellets. You can tell they're kind of static sensitive, the way they group up in certain places, but it definitely meters very well and is pretty consistent. All right, HP 38 is a very, it's got all the load data on here, and it goes all the way from 45 ACP, 9mm, and it's very flexible. But I didn't like about it was it is so light and fluffy, little flakes. It's really not fun to work with. It gets everywhere. It's kind of messy, and just for that, But it performs well, meters well, you can get by with it. It's just a personal thing about the little flakes that are kind of messy. And they static, and they kind of cling to everything. They cling to the side of the case. And the powder check station can kind of fluff them out of the case as you're reloading. So it's not a bad powder, but, just personal preference, the small flake is something I'm going to stay away from. All right, this is the HP 38. See how light and flaky this is? It's a flake. So this is the HP 38. Okay, the IMR Target. I'm really surprised how much I like this. I was trying to just get something, try to test something that was different than the other powders. Unfortunately, I found out that Hosgen and IMR are the same company, so it's basic, But it is a different powder, and this is a little bit faster burning. And the flakes aren't too small and too light and fluffy. It weighs in about the same as the Vitavori, so it fills up the case about the same amount as this, even though you need less of this. Okay, so and the only problem I have with this so far is it's darker. The other powders are gray or lighter, and this is pretty much black. And when your case has black soot, and if you don't clean your brass that great, sometimes it's difficult to see, or a shadow. It kind of looks like a shadow in the bottom of the case. So just be aware of that and be super careful. But performance-wise, I've been really pleased with this, and it's burning really clean. I think they got something good here. So this is what I've been loading. This is what I'm going with. It seems not to be affected by the cold as much, or it's not I haven't seen any change in the cold weather. So looking forward to the hot weather to see if the load changes any. But it's been running great, and this is what I'm going to go with for now. There's some other powders that I got my eye on, but for now, this is what I'm going to go with. If I was going to buy an 8-pound jug, this is what I'd buy right now. All right, so this is the IMR Target. See how it's still a flake. If you look at it, it's still a flake, but it's a little bit bigger flakes than the HP 38. That's what it looks like. All right, pistol powder is kind of like a personal preference. It's just my short little trip down the burn chart where I went back for it. I'm sure all these powders work great, and I could dial in a load, I'm sure, for all of them, but I'm just trying to do the 135 grain bullet at 1.15 overall length for my barrel. That I usually shoot a stock Glock barrel, so I have those two pieces I'm trying not to mess with too much. So I'm just trying to find a good powder in there. And I think that IMR Target is going to work out great. So I'm not 100% committed to it, but I'm really excited about it, and I think it's going to work out good. And the funny part is nobody's even suggested it. It's not like people are recommending it. It was kind of off my radar, but we'll see.